The Bennett family's two-story home, nestled in a picturesque suburban corner of Richmond, looked every bit the model of domestic bliss. With its red brick facade, crisp white window trims, a perfectly manicured lawn, and beds bursting with seasonal flowers, it was the kind of house people paused to admire. Neighbors often said it looked like it had leapt straight off a postcard, no matter the time of year. Inside, however, life was more complicated. Claire Bennett let out a long, weary sigh as she stared at the scattered student files spread across the kitchen island. She was a woman of quiet grace and gentle demeanor, known for her calming presence. For over a decade, she had served as a counselor at Albert High School, earning deep trust and affection from her students. "Stop bringing work home with you," came Graham Bennett's low, commanding voice, slicing through her thoughts. Graham was a prominent figure in the local real estate scene, charismatic, successful, and widely respected. At over 6 feet tall, he had a way of filling every room he entered, wearing his tailored suits like armor and moving with the self-assurance of a man used to being listened to. "I'm just getting ready for tomorrow's meetings," Claire replied, offering a tired smile. "I'll put them away soon." Graham leaned casually against the counter, a glass of whiskey in hand. "You're too generous," he said, his tone bordering on dismissive. "You give up so much of your time for those messed-up kids." Claire didn't respond. He'd never really grasped why the students mattered so much to her, why she saw promise where he only saw problems. "Where's Maya?" he asked abruptly. "In her room. I think she's doing homework." Graham's brow furrowed. "Shut in there again. She's been acting off lately. Go check on her." Claire hesitated. "She might be busy right now." "And she's 15, Graham. She needs a little privacy." "There's no such thing as privacy in this house," he said coldly, the finality in his voice leaving no room for argument. Without another word, Claire began stacking the student files, choosing silence over another disagreement. In her mind, keeping the household calm had always been her responsibility, even if it meant biting her tongue. She walked down the hall and paused at Maya's closed bedroom door, knocking softly. "Maya? Can I come in?" When no answer came, she eased the door open. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of a phone screen that quickly dimmed as Maya tucked it away. She was curled up on her bed in a plain t-shirt and sweatpants, her long brown hair falling like a curtain over her face. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Claire asked, her voice laced with concern. Maya didn't reply. Instead, she shifted into a tighter ball, her hair still shielding her expression. "My stomach hurts." Claire sat on the edge of the bed, her heart tightening. "That's the 3rd day in a row. Do you think you have a fever?" She reached out to check her daughter's forehead, but Maya pulled away. "No fever. I just don't feel good." "Are you hungry? I could warm up some soup." A faint shake of the head. "Not really." Claire looked around the room, taking in the changes that told a quiet story of retreat. The walls, once lively with colorful posters and snapshots of friends, now stood bare. Her daughter, once so vibrant and full of laughter, had become a stranger, withdrawn, silent, slipping away day by day. "How was your English test last week?" she asked gently. "Got a C," Maya murmured. "A C? You've always gotten A's in English." "What happened?" "I don't know. I just couldn't focus." Before Claire could say more, Graham's heavy footsteps thudded down the hall. He appeared in the doorway, arms folded, his expression sharp. "She's sick again?" he asked, a trace of annoyance in his tone. Claire looked up at him. "She says her stomach still hurts." "It's been a few days now." "Teen drama," he muttered dismissively. "She just wants attention. Don't blame fake illnesses for slipping grades." "Graham, please," Claire started. "Enough," he cut her off sharply. "Don't baby her. When I was her age, I didn't miss a single day of school, not even with a fever. She needs to learn some grit." Maya didn't say a word. She kept her back to them, staring at the wall, motionless. Claire placed a hand gently on her daughter's shoulder, but Maya didn't respond. "You're going to school tomorrow. Understood?" Graham said firmly. Maya gave a faint nod, barely noticeable, but it was enough. Once Graham's footsteps faded down the hall, Claire sat back beside her daughter and gently ran her fingers through Maya's hair. "If you're really not feeling well," she said softly, "I can take you to the doctor." Maya's voice quivered as she replied, "Dad won't let you." Claire hesitated, her words caught somewhere between fear and resolve. "Then we could go without telling him," she offered in a whisper. For the first time, Maya looked at her. But the spark that used to light up her eyes was gone, replaced by a vacant stare that pierced Claire's heart. "It's okay," Maya said quietly. "It's just a stomach ache." But Claire knew it wasn't just a stomach ache. She could see it in her daughter's eyes, that shadow of something deeper. A kind of sadness. And maybe fear. She just couldn't tell what was causing it, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. "You can talk to me," Claire whispered. "About anything." "There's nothing to talk about." Maya turned her back toward her mother. "Just leave me alone." The words landed like a door closing. With heavy feet, Claire stood and quietly left the room. Downstairs, the TV blared with the morning news. Graham sat on the couch, remote in hand, his attention fixed on the screen. He didn't look up as Claire entered. He hadn't always been this distant. 5 years earlier, he had stepped into Maya's life after Claire's first husband, Michael, died in a car crash. Maya had been only 10. At first, Graham had brought stability, security. 2 years after marrying Claire, he legally adopted Maya, making her his daughter in name and paperwork. Back then, everything seemed like it was settling into place. But over time, little things began to shift. Maya started pushing boundaries, as teenagers often do, but Graham's patience thinned. His rules grew stricter. His tolerance, shorter. Claire had chalked it up to adolescent growing pains, until now. Lately, her instincts whispered something far more troubling was unfolding just beneath the surface. Graham turned to glance at her. "Don't take her to any doctor," he said sharply. "It's a waste of money. Don't file anything on the insurance for fake illnesses." Claire simply nodded, swallowing her unease. The following morning, she stood by the living room window, arms crossed, watching as Maya climbed onto the school bus. Her daughter's shoulders sagged under a weight far heavier than her backpack, her face pale and drawn. She hadn't touched her breakfast. "I wonder if sending her to school like this was the right thing to do," Claire murmured under her breath. "Of course it was," Graham said, suddenly behind her, already dressed sharply for work. His cologne clung to the air between them. "If you baby her," he said, adjusting his cufflinks, "she'll grow up weak. Toughness comes from discipline." Claire gave a quiet nod, even though everything inside her screamed disagreement. She knew arguing would only lead to another long-winded fight. Graham was heading out for a 3-day business trip. At least, she thought, the house would be still for a little while. "Keep a close eye on her while I'm gone," he added firmly as he grabbed his briefcase. "I want to know what she's doing at all times. Don't forget to check her phone." Claire felt a pang of disgust twist in her stomach. But she forced herself to say, "Yes. I understand." Truthfully, she had never been comfortable with Graham's obsession with monitoring Maya's every move. Still, she had gone along with it, telling herself it was just responsible parenting. Once the door shut behind him, the silence felt thick with relief. Later that morning, Claire arrived at Albert High School. In the familiar quiet of the counseling office, her friend and colleague Tessa Reed looked up, concern already written across her face. "Claire, you look awful. Another late night with student files?" Claire forced a tired smile. "No. It's Maya. I'm worried about her." They moved toward the back of the office, away from listening ears. In a hushed voice, Claire began sharing everything, the recent changes in Maya's behavior, her falling grades, her retreat from friends. The strange pattern of constant stomach aches. "She hasn't been eating. She can't concentrate. And Graham, he says it's all in her head. He won't even let me take her to a doctor. Tessa's face darkened. What? That's not okay. This is her health we're talking about. He says it's just a waste of money. But I can see it, Tessa. It's not just some teenage phase. She's pale, anxious, and there's no light left in her eyes. Tessa squeezed her friend's hand, her voice steady. Claire, you've helped countless students through every kind of hardship. But somehow, you can't help your own daughter? That's not right. Whatever's going on, her well-being has to come first. Always. You have to act based on your own instincts, Tessa said firmly. Tears prickled in Claire's eyes. Her friend's words echoed the quiet voice that had been buried deep in her own heart for too long. Even without Graham's permission, Tessa continued, her tone unwavering. He's away on that business trip, right? That's your window. Take her. Get Maya checked out. You're her mother, it's not just your right, it's your responsibility. That afternoon, Claire picked up the phone and called the school. She told them Maya wasn't feeling well and needed to be dismissed early. When Maya spotted her waiting by the main entrance, her eyes widened in surprise. Mom? What's going on? We're going to see a doctor, Claire said, her voice steady with purpose. Maya glanced around nervously. But Dad is out of town. And right now, your health comes first. Something flickered in her daughter's eyes. Hope? Fear? Relief? It was hard to tell, it vanished just as quickly as it appeared. Maya nodded quietly and followed her mother to the car. Claire didn't drive to their usual clinic. Instead, she headed toward St. Joseph Medical Center, a town over. She didn't want to risk bumping into anyone who might report back to Graham. Her hands trembled slightly as she handed over her insurance card at reception. Inside the exam room, a soft-spoken young doctor greeted them. What symptoms are you experiencing, Miss Bennett? Dr. Leena Patel asked with a kind, measured voice. Maya hesitated, then turned to her mother. Mom. I'd like to talk to the doctor alone. Claire froze for a second. The request pierced her heart, stirring both pain and fear. Why couldn't Maya speak in front of her? What was she hiding? But she also understood. Sometimes, privacy was necessary, even between mother and daughter. Of course, Claire said with a faint smile, forcing calm into her voice. I'll be right outside. Alone in the waiting room, time dragged painfully. Her thoughts spun in endless circles, grasping for explanations, trying to prepare for every possibility. Drugs? Drinking? Something at school? Or, worse? She tried to shake the darker thoughts, but they clung to her like static. 45 minutes later, the door opened. Dr. Patel emerged, her expression unreadable but serious. Maya followed behind her, eyes red and puffy, silently wiping at tears. Mrs. Bennett, the doctor said gently, may I speak with you? Claire stood immediately, heart pounding. We'd like to run a few tests, some blood work, and, she paused, seeming to search for the right phrasing. An ultrasound. Claire's breath caught in her chest. An ultrasound? The word hung there like an echo, ominous and cold. Is something wrong? She asked, voice tight. Dr. Patel remained composed. We can't say anything for certain just yet. The results should be available by tomorrow evening. Can you return then? Claire turned to look at Maya, who wouldn't meet her eyes. Her daughter stood quietly, shoulders hunched, tears streaming down her cheeks. Of course, Claire said without hesitation. We'll come back, whatever Maya needs. The drive home was wrapped in silence. Claire tried to start a conversation more than once but couldn't seem to find the right words. Finally, Maya spoke, her voice barely audible. Mom. I'm scared. Without a second thought, Claire pulled the car over to the side of the road. She turned, wrapped her arms around Maya, and held her tightly. It's okay, sweetheart, she whispered into her daughter's hair. No matter what happens, I'm here. You don't have to go through this alone. Maya began to sob in her arms, and Claire held her tighter, rubbing her back in slow circles. Whatever the truth was, whatever tomorrow would reveal, Claire silently vowed to face it head-on. For Maya, she would be strong. Even if the truth broke her heart. Later, after they returned home, Maya quietly disappeared into her room, closing the door behind her. Claire busied herself in the kitchen, preparing dinner with a mechanical rhythm. Her mind kept spinning with logistics, how to return to the hospital and be back before Graham returned the next evening. Timing, secrecy, protection, all of it needed to fall into place. And no matter what came next, she would do what had to be done, for her daughter. The following afternoon, Claire wrapped up her final counseling session at Albert High School. The clock on the wall read 3:45. Graham will call at 5, she reminded herself, her pulse quickening. I need to be back home with Maya before then. She grabbed her bag with urgency, her heart already halfway to the hospital. At the main entrance, Tessa caught sight of her. Claire, wait, are you okay? Claire exhaled a shaky breath. I don't know. But we're about to find out. Tessa placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens, I'm here. You call me, anytime. I mean it. Claire gave her a grateful nod, then hurried to the parking lot. Waiting near the curb was Maya, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her complexion even paler than the day before. Her posture was slumped, her eyes distant. She didn't speak as she slid into the passenger seat, simply turned to stare out the window. Claire glanced at her daughter, wanting to offer some kind of comfort, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she quietly started the car, letting the silence ride with them. When they pulled into the parking lot of St. Joseph Medical Center, Claire heard Maya's breathing hitch. She cut the engine but didn't move. Neither did Maya. Maya, she said softly, turning toward her. I don't know what we're about to learn. But I do know this, I love you. And I will protect you, no matter what. We'll face it together, okay? Maya's lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came. Instead, tears pooled in her eyes. She gave a slight nod and looked down. Inside, the hospital's sterile brightness wrapped around them, the scent of antiseptic sharp in the air. After checking in at reception, they were escorted down a quiet hallway to Dr. Lena Patel's office. The doctor stood when they entered, her face composed but clearly serious. Mrs. Bennett. Miss Bennett. Please, have a seat. Claire and Maya sat opposite her desk. The silence in the room felt thick, like the air just before a thunderstorm. Dr. Lena stared at her computer screen, saying nothing for several seconds. Then she drew in a breath and turned to face them. We have the test results, she said gently, her voice laced with the calm of someone trained to deliver difficult truths. But even through that practiced tone, Claire sensed something was wrong. Dr. Lena looked directly at Maya, then at Claire. She hesitated before continuing, as if weighing the impact of each word. According to the ultrasound and blood tests, Maya is pregnant. Approximately 12 weeks along. Time froze. Claire's ears rang with the roar of her own heartbeat. A low, strangled cry escaped her lips, it didn't even sound like her own voice. No. That can't be. The words dissolved before they could form. Maya bent forward, covered her face with both hands, and sobbed. Instinctively, Claire wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her tightly, even as her own body shook. Dr. Lena spoke softly. I know this is overwhelming. It's a lot to process. Maya is still so young. This is extremely difficult. A storm of questions tore through Claire's mind. When did this happen? How? Who? She swallowed the lump in her throat and forced the most urgent one out. Who did this to you? Her voice cracked. Maya, who? But Maya didn't respond. She just kept crying, her shoulders trembling, her hands clinging to her mother's sleeve. Dr. Lena rose from her seat. Let's step into a different room to talk, she suggested gently. I'll have a nurse stay with Maya. Claire didn't want to let go. But she nodded, knowing she needed to hear the rest without her daughter present. A nurse came in quietly and sat beside Maya, offering her a reassuring touch on the shoulder. Claire stood on legs that felt like they might give out beneath her and followed Dr. Lena into a small consultation room. The door clicked shut behind them. First, Dr. Lena said, her voice softer now, I need you to take a deep breath. Claire obeyed, inhaling a jagged breath that barely steadied her. In situations like this, the doctor continued, there are several paths forward. Maya is still within the early stage of pregnancy. But no matter what decision you make, her mental and emotional well-being must be our top priority. Claire finally found her voice, hoarse and trembling. I don't understand, she whispered. She hardly ever goes out. She didn't have a boyfriend, Claire said, her voice barely above a whisper. It's just been school and home, nothing else. Dr. Lena nodded, her expression gentle but grave. In my conversation with Maya, a very serious concern has come to light, she said carefully. Because of that, I've contacted a social worker to speak with her in more detail. Claire's blood ran cold. A social worker? She repeated, panic creeping in. Why? What's going on? The doctor looked at her, visibly choosing each word with care. Maya's situation may involve legal implications. Legal? The word echoed in Claire's ears, heavy with dread. And then, the thought struck her like a lightning bolt. Was she raped? Her voice trembled. Was she assaulted? Dr. Lena didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, social worker Janelle Brooks is already here. After she meets with Maya, the three of us can speak together. Left alone in the consultation room, Claire sat frozen, her legs trembling beneath her. 10 minutes felt like a lifetime. Her thoughts swirled violently, flashes of every missed sign, every anxious glance from Maya. The idea that her daughter had suffered in silence, possibly for months, was almost too much to bear. Finally, a gentle knock came at the door. A woman with a calm, composed expression stepped inside. Mrs. Bennett, I'm Janelle Brooks. I'm with Child Protective Services, she said, her voice steady and compassionate. Maya? Claire asked at once, her voice cracking. Is she all right? She's with Dr. Lena. She's safe, Janelle assured her. Why don't you sit down? Claire nodded and slowly sank into a chair, bracing herself. What I'm about to tell you is difficult, Janelle said softly. You'll need all your strength. Claire stiffened. Please, just tell me. At first, Maya didn't want to open up. But I explained we're here to help, and that telling the truth is the first step to protecting her, Janelle said. She told me she's been sexually abused, for about a year. Claire gasped, her face draining of color. For a year, she whispered, her mind reeling. By who? A teacher? A coach? Janelle took a deep breath. Your husband. Graham Bennett. Claire's world stopped. She blinked at Janelle in disbelief, shaking her head as though the truth could be physically denied. No, she said firmly, her voice rising. No, that's not possible. Graham is her father. He adopted her. He loves her, he wouldn't, Mrs. Bennett, Janelle said gently but with steady resolve, I understand this is overwhelming. But in our experience, children rarely fabricate stories this serious. And Maya provided detailed information that confirms her truth. Claire's breath turned shallow. Her chest ached with a sharp, unbearable pain. Why didn't she tell me? She choked out. Why didn't she say anything? She told us she was afraid of hurting you, Janelle replied. She said Graham told her that if she spoke out, it would destroy you, and that no one would believe her. Claire felt as though the floor had dropped out beneath her. Guilt poured in like cold water. How could I not have known? She didn't want to break the family, Janelle added softly. Those words cut the deepest. Claire's body shook, caught between grief and rage, grief for her daughter's pain, and fury at the man she had trusted. "We need to contact the police," Janelle continued. "Ensuring Maya's safety is our top priority." "Graham's on a business trip," Claire said in a daze. "He's coming back tomorrow." "That's good," Janelle nodded. "You and Maya need to move to a safe location immediately. Do you have someone you trust, friends or family you could stay with?" Tessa's face flashed through Claire's mind. "Yes," she said quietly. "I do." "Excellent. A police officer will take your statements shortly," Janelle explained. "Then we'll help you relocate somewhere safe. An arrest warrant will be issued for Graham." Though Claire's mind was spinning, one truth was painfully clear: she had to protect Maya. Now. At all costs. Every maternal instinct in her had awakened with ferocity. She would not let Graham harm her daughter again. "I need to see her," Claire said, standing abruptly. Janelle gave a gentle nod and led her back to the examination room. Inside, Maya sat on a chair, her eyes swollen and glassy. When Claire stepped through the door, her daughter instinctively recoiled, as if expecting blame. "Maya," Claire's voice wavered. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry Mom didn't protect you." Maya burst into tears. "I wanted to tell you, but I was scared." Claire rushed forward and gathered her daughter in her arms, holding her tightly as they cried together. No words were needed. Their shared pain, their love, their apologies, they all lived in that embrace. "It's going to be okay now," Claire whispered, stroking Maya's hair. "No one will hurt you again. I promise. Mom will protect you, always." The next morning, Claire woke in the guest room of Tessa's house. For a moment, she didn't recognize where she was, until she felt the quiet warmth of her daughter sleeping beside her. And then yesterday came flooding back. The truth. The pain. The beginning of a new battle. She slipped out of bed carefully, moving quietly through the unfamiliar room, gathering her thoughts, steeling herself for what came next. Morning sunlight poured gently through the window, casting golden streaks across the guest room walls. But its warmth felt distant. Almost unreal, like a cruel contrast to the nightmare they'd just endured. The hours at the police station had blurred together in a haze of paperwork, testimonies, and disbelief. Maya had bravely given her statement, while Claire answered endless questions about their life with Graham, the shifts in Maya's behavior, and all the subtle signs she'd missed, or refused to see. "I should have seen it," Claire whispered to herself, her voice cracking. "Why didn't I notice?" "You can't blame yourself," came a voice from the doorway. She turned to find Tessa standing there, holding 2 steaming coffee cups. She walked over and handed one to Claire. "Thanks for being up so early," Claire murmured, accepting it with both hands. "Did you sleep at all?" Tessa asked gently, sitting on the edge of the bed. Claire gave a tired shake of her head. "Just fragments here and there. But Maya, she's finally resting. She was so exhausted last night." Tessa nodded, her expression shifting. "I got a call from the police earlier. Graham was arrested this morning in Chicago. They picked him up at his hotel." Claire inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "I'll tell Maya later. She still needs time to breathe." Tessa hesitated. "There's one more thing, and it's hard." Claire looked up sharply, her heart already pounding. When the police searched Graham's phone, Tessa said quietly they found inappropriate photos of Maya. The color drained from Claire's face. Her hand shook violently, and the coffee nearly slipped from her grasp. "What photos?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "They didn't give details, but apparently they span quite some time," Tessa answered softly. A heavy silence filled the room. Claire could feel it, something hard and white-hot burning in her chest. Guilt twisted inside her like a knife. The love she once had for Graham had soured into pure hatred. How did I not see this?" she muttered. "You're not alone," Tessa said gently. "Families of victims often don't notice." Especially when the abuser is someone everyone respects. Someone trusted. Graham. The man who'd been admired in the community. The man she once believed had saved them. It all felt like a cruel betrayal. That afternoon, Detective Marcus arrived at Tessa's house. He was a middle-aged black man with calm eyes and a firm, quiet presence. "Mrs. Bennett," he said as he stepped into the living room, "I wanted to update you personally. We've begun questioning Graham Bennett. At this time, he is denying all charges." Claire clenched her fists. Even with Maya's statement? Even with the photos? "This is, unfortunately, a common initial reaction," Detective Marcus replied with patience. "However, the evidence is substantial. We've begun processing DNA samples as well." Just then, Maya came slowly down the stairs. Her face was drawn, tense, but she walked over and sat beside her mother. When she saw the detective, her shoulders tightened slightly. But Claire reached out and took her hand. "He's been arrested," she said softly. "He can't hurt you anymore." Detective Marcus offered a gentle smile. "Miss Maya, you were very brave. It takes incredible strength to speak up the way you did. Thanks to you, we have a chance to see justice done." Maya raised her eyes. And for the first time in what felt like forever, there was a faint glimmer of light behind them. Not much. But something was coming back. Claire turned to the detective. "Have you learned anything about why he did this? I mean, his motives?" Detective Marcus took a breath. "It's still early," he said, "but the behavioral patterns are consistent with someone who exhibits controlling tendencies. He seems to have used his position as stepfather to assert power, treating Maya more as property than as family." Claire felt her stomach churn. Initial interviews with a psychologist suggest that Graham may have harbored jealousy toward Maya's biological father, the detective continued. "It's possible that as Maya began to mature, and perhaps resemble her father more, it triggered a twisted emotional response." Claire began to tremble. Suddenly, Graham's constant criticism of Michael, his obsession with monitoring Maya, his coldness, his rules, his boundary violations, they all came into focus under a new, horrifying light. She had lived with a predator. And let him into her daughter's life. "What do we do now?" Claire asked, almost to herself. Detective Marcus shifted into a practical tone. "I recommend filing for a protection order immediately. Start divorce proceedings as soon as possible. And both you and Maya should begin counseling, trauma-focused, preferably." Claire looked at Maya. The pregnancy. The weight of everything. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes again, and before Claire could speak, Detective Marcus rose quietly. "I'll give you both a moment," he said. "We'll be right outside." He left with Tessa, closing the door behind them. Now alone, Claire turned to face her daughter fully. She took both of Maya's hands in hers, gently but firmly, as if anchoring her to the earth. "Whatever choice you make," Claire whispered, holding her daughter's trembling hands, "I'm on your side. Always. Don't ever forget that." Maya, tears spilling down her cheeks, gave a tiny nod. "I don't want to have the baby," she said. "If I did, every single day, I'd remember." Claire pulled her into a gentle, protective embrace. "I understand," she murmured. "And I respect your choice." That night, after Maya had finally fallen asleep, Claire sat in the kitchen with Tessa, both women quiet under the soft hum of the fridge. "I can't go back to the house," Claire said at last, her voice raw. "Every room, every corner, reminds me of him." Tessa reached out and took her hand. "Then stay here. For as long as you need. Until you're ready to take your next step." A flicker of resolve lit in Claire's tired eyes. "Maya and I need a clean slate. A place where she can begin to heal, where we both can." She took a slow breath. "It'll take time, but we'll make it. Together." "You will," Tessa said, squeezing her hand. "You're one of the strongest mothers I know." She hesitated. "There'll still be hard days, the trial, the aftermath, but you and Maya?" You'll find your way. A cold February wind swept up the courthouse steps as Claire and Maya climbed them side by side. Today was sentencing day. The final day. You ready? Claire asked, squeezing her daughter's hand. Maya nodded. Her expression was calm, even steady. 4 months had passed since that terrible night. In that time, she had begun to reclaim her strength, through therapy, support groups, and most of all, through the unshakable bond she'd rebuilt with her mother. Inside the courtroom, all was silent as Graham Bennett was led to the defendant's seat. It was the first time Claire had seen him in months. The man who once radiated confidence and control now looked hollow. His face was gaunt, his eyes dull, stripped of the authority he had so easily wielded. He'd denied everything at first. But the truth had caught up to him. DNA results confirmed the paternity. Photos, messages, voice recordings, found on his phone, left no room for denial. Eventually, he accepted a plea deal. Still, Maya had chosen to testify. Not for revenge, but for every child out there who still felt trapped in silence. She had stood, voice quivering but firm, and shared her truth in court. Judge Evelyn Clark addressed him with slow, deliberate words. Defendant Graham James Bennett, she said solemnly, you have pleaded guilty to sexual abuse of a minor, possession of child pornography, and incest. Her eyes were sharp as blades. This court considers your crime especially heinous, not only for its violation of a child, but for the betrayal of your role as a father figure. You abused trust. You destroyed innocence. The damage you've caused is deep, lasting, and despicable. A heavy silence filled the room. This court sentences you to 25 years in prison. Possibility of parole after 18. The gavel fell with a finality that echoed in the chest. Claire reached over and wrapped an arm around Maya's shoulders. Between them passed something wordless, but powerful. Relief. Closure. The end of one chapter. Outside, spring sunshine warmed the courthouse steps. 3 weeks earlier, they had quietly left their old neighborhood behind and started over in Sedville, a quiet town 100 miles away. Claire had taken a new job as a school counselor. Maya had enrolled at a new high school. Slowly, they were rebuilding. As they walked toward their car, Maya turned to her mother. Mom. I think I want to speak at the support group. About what happened to me. Claire paused, surprised. Really? Maya nodded. A soft, steady smile touched her lips. It might help someone else. The counselor said silence only protects the abuser. I don't want to be silent anymore. Claire pulled her into a hug, eyes brimming. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. You're stronger than you know. It had been the hardest year of their lives. A year full of darkness and grief. But out of it, something had grown, a bond forged in truth, in protection, in love. As they got into the car and pulled onto the road, Claire glanced at her daughter and thought, a true family isn't defined by blood, but by love, respect, and the will to protect one another. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. Together. Step by step, they were already finding their way home.